You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire. You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you.
Let me. Do you know what that's called? Let me just bring this out here for a second. Let me just go and make sure that we're live across all of the various planes of the interwebs. We look good. We look like we're live here, people. Do you know what it's called when you say, I want to be saved by someone who looks like me? That's called racism. That's called sexism. That's called egregious stupidity. Yeah, I want to, first of all, I don't want to be operated on by someone who looks like me. Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. We're going to get into that in a little bit. That was just a gem that End Wokeness found. And this was the Los Angeles Fire Department Chief Christine Larson. Am I able to carry your husband out of a fire? He got himself in the wrong... As to your grandma's car flipped over when we got here, she shouldn't have mouthed off like that. Oh, only 5% of the Los Angeles Fire Department are women. Okay. What percentage of the NBA are... Jewish males? If I can just ask the I can ask that question without being called anti-Semitic. What percentage of the NBA are Jewish men? My goodness, it's almost like physiology has something to do with high impact, high technique sports or physical activity. All right, we're going to get into that later. Good morning. So we're going live early because the sentencing was gone, but I thought the sentencing was at 10 o'clock and it seems like we might have already missed it, but don't worry. We got Inner City Press's Twitter thread that we're going to go through in a bit. Let me just make sure we're good on CommuTube. Let me just make sure that we're good on CommuTube. We should be good on Rumble. I know we're good on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Now, Michael Yoder, who's an attorney, should be coming on, or is coming on, but he's having, maybe, I think he actually has a job as an attorney, so he might have something more important to do than popping right on. But Michael Yoder, if you don't know him, is a fantastic attorney. I saw him on Alex Jones when I was on with Alex Jones earlier this week, and I'm DMing him while we're live together on the same segment. I was like, hey, I like the cut of your jib. We should talk. And today it looks like we're going to talk. So he'll be coming on later. And it looks like we are good everywhere. So today's the sentencing. Yesterday, I know Robert Barnes, had some choice words for Amy Coney Barrett, who was the 5-4 decision not to suspend sentencing or not to suspend the sentencing in the state case. I haven't really delved into that decision in as much as I don't know how long a written decision it was, but bottom line, SCOTUS 5-4 ducked out of agreeing to stay Judge Juan Marchand, the corrupt Judge Juan Marchand, whose daughter is profiting off of this prosecution from sentencing Trump today, thus crystallizing his status as a convicted felon. Joe Neerman, good logic, is going to have to retract his retraction, because it seems that he was right initially when he said that one is not a convicted felon until sentenced, and then he, mea culpa, thought he had to retract that, and say, no, it's a convicted felon. No, apparently not. But so let me go here. Let me bring this up because we got Inner City's Twitter thread, or it's called an X thread, and he's covering it live. So we'll walk through this because I don't know what it is yet. So I haven't read too far in. I just noticed that Inner City Press, and if you don't follow him. He's awesome. Had started this 26 minutes ago. And so Trump is being sentenced in the 34 felony conviction of a bookkeeping. I won't even call it a mistake because I don't think it was a mistake to begin with. But even if it was, it would have been a misdemeanor bookkeeping mistake that would have been time barred, notwithstanding anything. But they got around that by tying it to an undeclared, undisclosed, unconfirmed federal underlying felony, which is how they then extended the statute of limitations and turned one payment into a 34 felony charge by breaking down every month's payment, every month's check, every month's entry in the ledger as 3 separate felonies, month over month over month over month over month over month, to get it to 34. It's criminal corruption, in my humble opinion, period. All right, so reading through it, I'll see what's going on in the chat. I want to see what's going on in the chat. No spoiler alerts, people. I'm going over to our local stream where Stephen Britton says ABC is an RINO. ABC is a rhino. ABC and Roberts are useless tools, says Danielson, 68. So let's walk through this and see what's going on. So Inner City Press, all rise. I've never live tweeted a court hearing that I know of. No. All rise. Okay. Trump is from Mar-a-Lago doing it via video login. Wise decision. Virtual sentencing is permitted here in New York. First, please look at the probation report. Okay. Yada, yada. Justice Marchand. Mr. Blanche, do you have any objections to this report? Blanche, it is out of date, but given what we expect to happen today, no objection. What's the report? The report is virtual sentencing is permitted. What's the report? Copies. We'll find out what the report is. Assistant District Attorney standing and reading from statement. The defendant was convicted on 34 felonies. Oh my God. This is the first time we have a convicted felon of a president. The court has called it premeditated. The verdict was unanimous and decisive and must be respected. The defendant did not defend our constitutional system of justice. What the F does that? It's too early to swear, and I'm not going to. The defendant did not defend our constitutional system of justice. They're going to use all of this to try to impeach Trump a third time. Jamie Ratskin, Adam Shit for Brains McSchiff. Sorry, I just swore. Adam Schiff for Brains McSchiff. Scumbag Daniel Goldman. They're going to try to use this to impeach Trump a third time. Or if they really want to get funky, try to refuse the transition of power now that he's a convicted felon. Well, when we certified the results of the election, he wasn't a convicted felon. Now that he is, we can't have a conviction. He didn't respect the constitutional system of justice. Okay, Diva, shut your mouth. Assistant District Attorney. His attacks on this court and its family. Oh, way to bring the judge into it, by the way. Make the judge party to the suit. The court and its family. On prosecutors and their family. The court found 10 violations of extrajudicial statements. They gagged him and then said that Trump couldn't raise the fact that Merchand's daughter was profiting handsomely from this persecution. Trump leaning towards the camera, then leaning down, taking notes. ADA. Chief Justice Roberts has warned of this type of conduct. Attempts to intimidate justice for their rulings are inappropriate. He also warned of the dangers of disinformation. This is communist propaganda right here in real time. Stay the hell out of New York, people. Trump is smart for having stayed in the free state of Florida. Defendant has caused enduring damage to the perception of the justice system. Darvo, deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. What narcissists do. They are accusing Trump of having done what they have done, which has caused enduring damage to the perception of the justice system. ADA, we must respect the office of the presidency, so we request unconditional discharge. Okay, look, this is fantastic. Oh, no, back it up. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Unconditional discharge. As the court has indicated, this creates the status of a convicted felon as he appeals. They're telling you in real time what their strategy is. Let him appeal. Screw him while he appeals. It creates the status of convicted felon in the interim. Well, I'm sure some of you are asking me to zoom in on this. Sorry about that. Is that better? That is better. That's all. Oh, that's all they want. They want the title of convicted felon so they can do Lord knows what with afterwards, and they will do something with it. This is not for nothing that they're doing this. Justice Marchand, defense. Trump's lawyer Blanche. This case should not have been brought. After President Trump announced his intention to run for re-election, this case was brought. We intend on appealing. Many legal experts share our views that Judge Marchand should be sanctioned for what he's done in this case. Leave that alone for now. Blanche, the American people get to decide. They got to decide. As the trial was held during the election, Trump was elected. This DA promised he would go after President Trump. That's sad. President Trump hopes this never happens again to this country. Okay, fine. This was a case that Alvin Bragg did not want to bring. He thought it was inappropriately handled before he got in. A gentleman was brought in from a law firm. It was criminal what he did. Were they going to name him? Well, I forget the guy's name now. Oh, geez. Chat, if you know his name, I forget what it is now. He was involved with my political opponent. It was legal. It was a legal expense. Experts who are, hold on, let's make sure I don't miss anything here. So we go like this. This is why I hate these Twitter. Does it go down like this now? Okay, here we go. Trump, experts who are no friends of mine have said this case should not have been brought, I think is what it said. They all said this is not a case that should not be brought. I think it means experts all said this case should never have been brought. They were all legal experts, I think. This was done so I would lose the election. Obviously, this did not work. I won. I was under a gag order. I assume I'm still under it. I am totally innocent. I did nothing wrong. I see a loud protesting his innocence. I mean, Alex Jones wasn't. The business records were accurate. They were done by a bookkeeper, corroborated. Reliance, I guess, would be one excuse here. And by the way, it was a legal fee because it was structured and paid out as a legal fee. Michael Cohen is the one who actually stole some of that money to do whatever he wanted with. But yeah, no, he structured it to allow Michael Cohen to willingly steal from him. With all that's happening, a city burning to the ground, you have a gentleman sitting right there who was with the DOJ. He got them to move on it. They call it lawfare. I'd just like to explain I was treated very, very unfairly. Thank you very much. I would love to see this video. Justice Marchand, thank you, Mr. Trump. Justice Marchand, I have sentenced countless defendants, sex trafficking and homicide. This circumstance is unique. No shit, Sherlock. Sorry. Sentencing a president-elect, sentencing a former president after years of systematic, coordinated lawfare. It's definitely unique. I mean, I don't know. How many cases have you sentenced, Judge Marchand, where your daughter was profiting off the case? But it might actually be more than one. This has been an extraordinary case. Media, but once the courtroom doors closed, it was just a trial. Jury selection, what is this? Ooh, are we getting towards the updated section here? Justice Marchand, it is my obligation to consider all aggravating factors. Oof. If I'm reading this without going further, it's almost like the judge wants to go beyond what the state is asking. Yeah, you guys want unconditional discharge. I have a legal obligation to consider all of the aggravating factors. You insulted me. You insulted my daughter, who's profiting and pilfering off of this case. You insulted the media. You insulted the court. You insulted Alvin Bragg, Soros-funded Alvin. Okay, let's hear. I have to consider all of the aggravating factors, including already in my Sandoval ruling and other rulings. The protections afforded to the office of the president are not a mitigating factor, but they are a legal mandate. Justice Marchand, this power does not include erasing a jury verdict. Now Trump is leaning back. Next to his lawyer, Todd Blanche, both have American flag label lapel pins. Unconditional discharge has been firmed as appropriate. I impose it. Is that it? Unconditional discharge. Godspeed. Story coming. If like and can. Oh, if you like and can, support PayPal. And I'll give everybody the link to his PayPal. So that's it. Unconditional discharge. What does that mean? Hold on a second. Let me make sure that we're not missing anything here. It was all political. Unconditional discharge. Poor libtards hoping for jail. No. Well, fuck off. What a bunch of asshats. Two-tier justice. Nobody ever... this person, if I sorry, I don't want to put anybody on blast. Well, fuck off. What a bunch of asshats. Two-tier of justice. Nobody ever better come at me with some you broke the law nonsense. If Trump isn't even tried for treason or punished for his crimes, we have no justice in this country. Justice is dead. Advocating for women's rights, economic equality, rural broadband, public transportation, and free schools. No deal. See, you never know what's parody anymore and what is not. So a real kangaroo court just makes shit up to smear someone and then say you are guilty, but there's no penalty. Bragg and Marchand will be in jail by March. Huh? Okay, so that's it. Unconditional discharge. I'm a lawyer. Let me just turn a former lawyer. I guess I'm still a lawyer, but okay, I want to be able to see the full free stop moving camera. There you go. I am a former lawyer. People who are new to the channel, I practiced for 13 years civil litigation in Quebec. I never did criminal. The worst grade I ever got in law school was criminal, a C-. But I blame it on, I did all of my classes in French. And I blame it on that, if I can. Now, I need to go. I'm going to go over to locals, and I'm going to go over to... the charges are on appeal, ML money. So the case is under appeal, and the case will very likely get dismissed on appeal. What I want to see is the consequences of what are the consequences of being convicted of a felony and then receiving unconditional discharge. Is he still going to go down as a convicted felon now and like lose voting rights in certain states, lose the ability to own a firearm in certain states? Let's see what Grok has to say. Being convicted of a felony and then receiving unconditional discharge has several nuanced consequences. I'm starting to feel lazy when Grok or AI, whatever, can give you relatively accurate answers. Like, I sort of feel stupid. Like, okay, great, everybody can do this now. I guess everybody needs to know the good questions to ask for whatever skill that is. Conviction on record. Despite the discharge, the individual is still considered to have a felony conviction. This means that legally, for certain purposes, they are a convicted felon. The conviction remains on their record, which can affect employment, not for presidents, housing, not for okay, so things that don't apply to Donald Trump, licensing. I guess Trump might not be able to be a lawyer. No further punishment and unconditional discharge means no additional punishment like fines, probation, community service is imposed. The individual is released from any further obligation related to the conviction itself. However, this does not undo the conviction or its implications for civil rights and other legal contexts. Okay, travel restrictions. Some countries might bar entry. Oh man, this is funny. I just actually played something out of my head, and I want to go see what the markets are saying to this. I think they're setting up for a benevolent Joe Biden move here, but let's see if I can get there. Travel restrictions. Some countries might bar entry or impose stricter visa requirements for people with felony conviction, even if discharged. For instance, the U.S. might still consider someone with a felony inadmissible. Okay, fine. So I don't think Trump is going to have any travel issues going to Canada, but I also don't think that would make any difference whatsoever. They would have to just come to him at Mar-a-Lago, and they would be more than happy to do so. Voting rights. In some jurisdictions, felony can lead to the loss of voting rights. Okay, we know that. Firearm ownership. Okay, social stigma. Legal disclosures. Okay, fine. And then future legal proceedings. The conviction can be considered in future legal proceedings, potentially affecting sentencing. Okay, that's fine. It's important to note that while unconditional discharge is a lenient outcome, the underlying conviction still exists and can influence various aspects of life. In New York, for instance, unconditional discharge for a felony requires the court to state reasons on record, but the conviction remains. In Canada, nobody cares. Okay, so that's interesting. I mean, it fits into what we knew was a strategy. They wanted the title of convicted felon. I think they wanted it before Election Day, not that it would have changed anything, but they got it. And now whether or not they think it's going to prevent Trump from being admitted to Australia, which was founded by convicted felons. I'm joking. I love you guys in Australia. And whether people think it's going to bar Trump from entry into Canada, I don't even think Trump wants to go to Canada. I'm kidding, Canada. I love you also. The weather is quite clearly more beautiful. And if you have to do travel time in winter, do the meetings in Florida, not necessarily in the armpit of Canada, Toronto. And yes, I meant that as an insult to Toronto. Okay, so unconditional discharge, we understand now. No consequences except for those that we saw. And they get to now run with the label convicted felon. I'm going to bring up I'm Not Your Buddy Guy. Blatant abuse, judicial abuse, and carry a life sentencing penalty. No slap on the wrist, and I'm considering treason. Enough is enough. Well, so here's the play that I think is going to happen. Let me just go up here and make sure and scroll back down. Let me go over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com and see what's going on there. Trump doesn't give a rat's ass about the opinions of people that have him. Okay, no. Okay, so let's see. The convicted felon title, he's got it now. Okay, great. Media officially gets to say he's a convicted felon. If I go to CNN, convicted felon, so to CNN.com, no, they're still on California wildfires. So he gets the title of convicted felon, big effing deal, nobody cares. Where it might be an issue, the dirty play and then the benevolent play. Okay. That dirty scoundrel, Ratskin Raskin. That scum of the earth, Dan Goldman, and that lying shift for brains, Adam Schiff. I do wonder, I don't think they're going to have anywhere near the political support to do it. I do wonder if they're going to go for an impeachment 3.0. You remember the first impeachment, which was for the quid pro quo. And the legal theory or the legal debate back then, and I remember having it with Legal, who I'm now probably thoroughly convinced I have a better understanding of U.S. constitutional law than Legal. The argument at the time was, do you even have to have committed a crime? Because the quid pro quo was not a crime. They said it was a purely political process. They could convict you for not liking the color of your tie. And I sort of understand that argument. I don't really reconcile that with, high crimes or other high crimes and misdemeanors as required by the Constitution, but they argued that it was a purely political process. Which one's the Canadian? Which one's the American? I do both, but I was told that it's a purely political process and you don't need to actually commit a crime, let alone a high crime or a misdemeanor, and that it's, if they don't like you, they will impeach you and remove you from office. Okay, fine. Then they got impeachment 2.0, which was based on the insurrection, that no one was charged for, let alone even convicted of, or no one was convicted of, let alone even charged for. But that at least, bordering on a crime, insurrection, inciting a mob, inciting an erection, if you ask a bunch of these boner-obsessed Democrats. So that one was at least based on a crime. Now they've got a convicted felon. Do they go for an impeachment 3.0? Trump is a convicted felon for trying to hide porn money that he paid to that wonderful actress, Stormy Daniels. They might try to do that. You had Raskin talking about disqualifying Trump for insurrection. They haven't done that. They certified the vote. Now they've got the convicted felon that came subsequent or after the certification, but before the inauguration. So do they try an impeachment now or immediately after taking office? Do they bog him down with more bullshit like that? I don't think they're going to have the political support to do that, and certainly not the public opinion support to do that. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. What was it? What did that say? Once the left starts impeachment 3.0, then Vance will go back to his never Trump ways. No. And that's the other thing. Okay, good. Impeach Trump. Vance is your president, boys. Be careful what you wish for. So I don't think that's happening. If I want to think white pill, because I've been thinking about this, because I've been looking at and investing in the betting markets, the prediction markets. Let's just go to Kalshi for a second. The pardons. The pardon. Who will Biden pardon? You know that Biden, Cheney now is up to 37%. Fauci is up to 35%. Benny Thompson is up to 35%. Jim Biden, Joe Biden's brother, is up to 30%. These have, I presume there's some, I say insider information. I presume those markets are based on investments and wagers from people with much more knowledge than me. So they spiked, by the way, after an interview when Biden said, look, Trump hasn't assured me that he's not going to go after his political rivals. So I don't know, pardons are still on the table. You know that Biden wants to pardon Jim. He wants to maybe even pardon himself. He might, I don't know what Jill could, what exposure she could have, but he wants to pardon his friends. He wants to pardon Benny Thompson, who I believe has legal exposure. And he wants to pardon Liz Cheney. If he wants to pardon all of the Jan 6 committee, if he wants to leave office as the unifying president, and he wants to pardon his own cronies, he gets to now throw in Trump and say, look, Trump, it's a state level conviction, but he's still a convicted felon. So I don't know if I have to think about this now. I'm going to actually hold on. Let's go to Grok. Can a president pardon for a state felony conviction? No, a president cannot pardon someone for a state felony conviction. The U.S. Constitution grants the president power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, which applies exclusively to federal offenses. State crimes fall under the jurisdiction of state governments, and thus governors issue the pardon. Does he pardon Trump anyhow for, the other thing is there were potential federal underlying crimes to that state conviction. So does he end up being the unifying president and pardoning Trump as well, even though many of you are going to say he doesn't need it, so that he can then pardon his own cronies? He can't pardon a state conviction. True. The problem with the state conviction in New York is that it was based on federal felonies, federal election felonies, which would then the Federal Felony Predicate Act, unless I'm mistaken on this. So I think there is still subject matter for a pardon there. And it could be a pardon to all of the other issues. It's got an unconditional discharge. It wouldn't change his felony status. So okay, we'll see. Maybe I'll have to tinker with that. If even a pardon for underlying federal exposure would not undo the state level felon conviction, and I don't think Kathy Hochul is going to be running anytime soon. Who can pardon under the state level? Limitation. Okay, fine. Well, that's it. Governors or state pardon boards in some cases have the authority to grant pardons for state felony convictions. Let me see here. Speaking of pardons, I'm expecting Trump to pardon all of the Jan 6s. I have been pushing hard for it. I think it's the only fair thing to do. So we'll see. Okay, but the bottom line, I have to tinker with whether or not that means that Biden is going to be the unifying president and pardon Trump. Maybe pardoning Trump for federal underlying whatever could put some pressure on Hochul to be a unifying scoundrel. But that's it. What's this? Oh, come on, censoring. Inauguration Day, he's a convicted felon. That's the point. Me too. Stop blocking. I have no idea what I don't block anybody. By the way. All right, so that's it. That's the thoughts there. That's it. Unconditional discharge. This is a dog and pony show. Says no one 2222. Let me check my messages here and see. Don't worry, come in and we'll talk, period. We'll see if Yoder's going to be able to come on in, and let's go see what's going on in Viva Bar. Let me see what the odds are exceedingly low that Biden, the prediction, I should say, Trump is at 3% odds of being pardoned by Joe Biden. That's a long shot. It's a state charge upped to federal. This is just an attempt to prevent him taking office, though I suspect he will be convinced and Biden pardons so that Trump might pardon him and his family. Well, Biden can pardon himself and his family. This is where there's an interplay between the state conviction and the underlying federal felony upon which that state charge was predicated to make it into a felony state charge. So no pardon, he didn't do anything wrong, Virginia. That is true. But the bottom line is, first of all, he can pardon him as an insult if he wants to be a jackass. The issue is not who the hell wants to pardon. We're not understanding this here. Trump doesn't necessarily need to want the pardon, and he's certainly not asking for the pardon. I mean, if nothing has been more politically profitable for Trump than the persecution. You're talking about, he has a unilateral, not obligation, I'm sorry. He has a unilateral power, Biden, to issue the pardon, whether or not Trump wants it, whether or not Trump accepts it. So the unilateral act of pardoning Trump, A, could be ostensibly for unification, or B, it could be to insult Trump. Yeah, I'm going to pardon you, you petty criminal. You got your conviction at the state level. I'll protect you at the federal level because you need me to protect you. And I'll do that showing my benevolence to pardon a Republican adversary. And at the same time, I'm going to go pardon Liz Cheney, who's a Democrat in disguise. Adam Kinzinger, who's a little crybaby Democrat in disguise, which is pretty much every Democrat to begin with. And then he could pardon Benny Thompson. He could pardon everybody. Pardon his brother, pardon his wife, pardon himself. Pardon Hillary Clinton. We'll just do preemptive pardons for all presidents as unification so that we stop this lawfare and we get back to being a unified country, is what Joe Biden can say. The American system was raped by didocrats. That's not actually the one I wanted to bring up. I meant to bring up this one, but thank you, John Duran. The hypocrisy of foreskin, ratskin, talking crap about it. A SCOTUS justice. What an idiot. He's really an awful, awful human. And it's a shame that his name is so close to ratskin. Pardon everyone. Great reset. That's what I'm thinking is the unifying move of Biden, which gives him the excuse to pardon all of his cronies. All right, let's see what we got going over in vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Lily of America says, Viva, did Marion? Hold on a second, I lost it. Did Marion show you this? And the video, this was on some television show, IG last night. This is wild. Sorry, I can't provide a link. I don't have Google, so it's hard to take screenshots. Let me see how this works here. Cripe. Sorry, I'm going to bring this up for everybody to see, but I have to find a way to. Okay, there's a number of screenshots. Okay, let's do this here. This is from our locals community. I think we're going to move on to the California stuff right now. Okay, this is Ted Ross, General Manager and CIO, City of Los Angeles Information Technology Agency. So I don't know what these 5 bullet items are. I'm going to get to. Did Marion show this to you? Okay. Smart cities are multifaceted and made up of several components, not just IT infrastructure. Smart cities are evolving, which requires both near-term and long-term goals that adhere to an overarching set of smart city values. Smart cities require collaboration where government and non-government entities work together to deliver best-in-class service to the public. They've changed the term. It's not 15-minute cities, you conspiracy theorists. They're smart cities, and they're built for your own convenience. Smart cities require local residents and businesses' participation, especially in light of major social movements such as the protests for racial justice, the digital divide, and this is fucking communism. I'm sorry to swear. Smart cities don't happen by accident. They require careful strategic planning and investment to become intelligent urban ecosystems designed for the humans that live there. Understanding the importance of technology of the modern city, Smart LA 2028 is our concise, smartest city strategy, which is followed by. Okay, I understand it. And booyah, I'm going to be on with Megan Kelly at 12 to 12:30 today. So boom. And then after that, I'm going to join Eric Hunley. So the theory here, I presume, is that the argument is going to be they had to destroy LA in order to build the smart city. I look, they said the same thing for Lahaina, where there was talk about smart city stuff. The thing is, I'm not minimizing it. I'm not writing it off. I can't blame anybody for even not just believing it, but lending credibility to it. They're talking about doing this everywhere in the world. So they're talking about doing smart cities everywhere, 15-minute cities in England and wherever. And you have disasters like this that wipe out. I mean, the disaster is itself the scandal, not what they're going to do out of the ashes or what they're going to build out of the ashes. Visitors for the 2028 Summer Olympics and Paralympics, we will find a transformational digital Olympic experience from the moment they arrive, passing through LAX airport, completely renovated terminals. Yeah, so they were talking about renovating, turning California, LA, into a smart city for the Olympics. It's wild because I should add this to my list of confirmed conspiracies. The idea, Lily in America, thank you for this. It's amazing. Is that there was discussion of converting LA into a smart city, renovating it into a smart city for the Olympics in 2028. Burning the mother effort to the ground, it will certainly make it easier to rebuild, maybe claim land by eminent domain yet again, turn it into government land. Are they connected? I don't know. The fundamental question is how the hell did it happen in the first place? Because let's assume that was the goal. They want to burn the whole city down to claim it for eminent domain, whatever, disaster, make it government land, and build it up into a 15-minute smart city for the Olympics in 2028. Assume that is the goal. That's what they wanted to do. How the hell did they burn it down like the way they did? So those fires, there's an aerial view of the fires all getting started. And let me see here. Does Grok find me the tweet with the video of the aerial view of fires starting in LA? Let's see if Grok can do this. Oh my goodness. It does it. It looks, oh, wait. Here's the citation for, why is it taking so long here? Ah oui. Donne-moi l'esti de lien pour que je puisse le voir moi-même là. It didn't give it to me. There's an aerial video. Well, okay, it looks like Grok is not doing that. Aerial video fires starting LA. It was a satellite image. I should probably have put that word in there. Hold on a second. In LA satellites. It looked exactly like the ones that we saw in Canada. That's just the summer there. This is it right here. Okay, let me bring this up. Wanted to do, how did they make this happen the way they did? Let me just turn the music down because it's loud and annoying. So we're looking at, for anybody listening on podcast, we're looking at, it seems like it's time-lapse satellite footage of fires starting in 1, 2, 3, no less than 3 locations. It looks like they're starting fast or rapidly, and then they might have been rapid by fire standards, but I think it's time-lapse photo, so it's over the course of hours maybe. So let's say they wanted to burn LA down for the purposes of rebuilding a smart city. How did they make the fire so bloody devastating? The one thing I don't know is if it's space lasers, and I'm not saying that to be funny or minimizing the possibility of that, would we not see the space lasers? So would we not see the beam, the directed energy causing these fires from space? More likely than not, these are started from the ground, and more likely than not, apparently, because the latest breaking news of the day is it was arson, at least in the Kenneth fire in LA. More likely than not, I would say that they are started by arson or exacerbated by arson. So how do they burn down the whole cities? Either they know, they probably know, let's just say they want to do it, they want to burn it down so they can rebuild it for 2028, smart city, whatever. And they know of all of the infrastructure failures that we know. Some people are saying it's migrants starting fires. Be careful there, because I haven't seen evidence of migrants. The evidence was thus far, at least in the Kenneth case, was a local man whose name did not sound like a foreign name, for whatever that's worth. A homeless man armed with a flamethrower started the Kenneth fire, arrested. So, assuming they want to burn it down to build it up, and they know of the systemic failures, infrastructure, policy, etc., and they get some eco-terrorist arsons to go exacerbate the situation. I can see that. At least I can see. I know that that's happened. The only question is it deliberate, part of a bigger plan, or are they going to just jump on the tragedy and turn it into their end goal of 15-minute cities and smart cities and whatever? The news of the day, as far as that goes, was the so I see Bill Tong is making a joke that I covered up the I made a joke with his thing. I mean, when you have the people know that this is policy now of the fire department, it kind of makes it easy to exploit.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you.
Nope. I want to see a 6'4", strapping, good-looking, blonde hair, blue-eye firefighter rescuing me. I don't want some short, stocky me, 5'5.5". I'm pretty strong, by the way. I actually would trust myself in a fire, but no, idiots.
Gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better.
It's a freaking fire. This is not like, I'm sorry, it's a freaking fire. Yeah, you're hot right now. I once took a sauna. It was very hot.
Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
That's probably but they're like, when you have policy like this implemented, it makes it very easy to exploit for ideological purposes. Guys, I am for my size, I weigh 158 pounds, relatively strong. I have to start doing push-ups again because I'm lazy, and I jog, and that's good for cardio, but I got to build up core muscles again. Jean-Claude. Oh, Beyond Mystic. Thank you very much. Jean-Claude, I'm going to share the link. It was great. And I was reading the comments. I'm an easy man to please. I don't like flattery, but I don't mind it. Thanks again for last night. You have a great show. It was a great show. Jean-Claude, put the link back in. Don't put it in the super chat. Put the link in. I'm going to share it around again. But if I'm getting rescued in a fire, I want Brad Pitt. There, I said it. Okay. Who else might I want? I don't want Brad Pitt. He won't be able to carry me. I want the Giga Chad guy, the guy with that big jaw that they make the memes out of. It's so stupid. Okay, you don't see microwaves. Radiation is without the spectrum of light. How did they start simultaneously? That's the question. I mean, that's the fair question. Orchestrated arson, organized arson, or I mean, there were no. I'll steelman it. There was no lightning storm, so it wasn't lightning. How did they start simultaneously? Infrastructure failure, power lines that were weak and strong winds. That's possible. I mean, the thing is also, if you're going to use space lasers, and I'm not saying it to be funny, if you're going to use microwaves or like whatever, directed energy, why do it at the same time? That would make it look suspicious. Like just go one, then the other, then the other. This could be a windy day, blows over power lines short out, start the fire, and then all the other consequences of failed policy materialize at the same time. The DEI firefighter literally blames the person for being in a fire in the first place. Victim, but it's so stupid. All of those California people should have thought twice before buying their houses, right, in a fire-prone area, according to that woman. And just so nobody thinks I'm making light of the California situation, I'm not. I've got my sister, my brother-in-law, my nieces and nephews, my aunt who might have to evacuate. In fact, last I checked, had to evacuate. I don't know if things have changed. I've got at least 7 first cousins out there. I hope I can remember all their names. I got immediate family out there. My aunt, my beautiful, wonderful aunt, who's old. You can't make her evacuate. Just too old. So I got family out there, and it's an absolute. I mean, we can sort of unify, and everybody can set politics aside. This is an egregious, systematic failure from beginning to end. Some say, look, we agree. We'll talk about it afterwards. For now, protect, mitigate, and get the hell out. Kim Iverson is out there, had to evacuate. Mark Robert is out there. He had to evacuate. I mean, this is Los Angeles. We've all got friends and family out there, and this is an absolute disaster. And you look at it, and people need to go to fucking jail for this. Period. I'm sorry. This is not a question of like prejudging. Where's my list? I put together my list. It's in a tweet. I tweeted it. 3 lesbians named Christian and a radical Marxist mayor running things. What could go wrong? If they were competent, I don't care that they're This is the thing. I don't care that they're lesbians in the best possible way. I don't care if someone's gay. I don't care if someone's trans. I don't care if someone goes by they, them, him. I don't care unless they're a kid and people are giving these kids genital mutilating drugs. I care when they make it a selling point because I don't care. And if you're making it a selling point or like an added feature, you are valorizing something that is irrelevant for the purposes of the discussion, for the purposes of the job, in which case you are valuing and valorizing irrelevant attributes that have nothing to do with anything. And that's all I have to say about that. I see Mr. Yoder in the backdrop. I cannot see his last name without thinking Yoda. But I'm going to call him Yoder. Have you guys, if you don't know Mike Yoder, I'm going to bring him in. Mike, you ready? Thumbs up. Sir, if you can.
How are you?
No, are you sure? Oh, I was going to satisfy my neurosis and tilt up your camera a little bit. But hold on. What is your shirt that says Citizen AG?
Oh, just it says we sue the feds at the bottom, but
That's fantastic. All right, Mike, I don't know. Look, I haven't done enough of a deep dive into you. I met you I saw you on Alex Jones, and I liked what you had to say and subscribe to your newsletter. But tell the people who have never met you before who you are.
yeah, my name is Mike Yoder. I'm founder of Citizen AG, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. Essentially, since we didn't have a U.S. Attorney General, I decided maybe we'd do the job for him and actually enforce the laws that we have and also educate Americans on our rights, because personally, I don't think that you actually can exercise any right if you don't know what your rights are in the first place. So that's what we mainly do, is focusing on education. And then recently we just partnered with James O'Keefe, and we're going to be doing a whistleblower initiative where we're going to try to fight to protect federal whistleblowers and then also prosecute claims on their behalves, so we can actually get rid of some of this corruption in our government.
That's very cool. I mean, there's the expression in French, which is nul n'est censé ignorer la loi, which in English is ignorance of the law is no excuse, but it's true. You are held liable if you don't know the law and break it, but it's difficult to enforce your rights if you don't know the law to enforce them. I'm going to ask you the question because I have to. You look very young. How old are you?
What's your guess?
I would say 28, but you seem to have maybe more experience. So I'm going to say 28.
31.
Okay, close enough. 31. Practicing lawyer out of which states?
Currently none. I am in timeout for 6 months.
Sorry, I didn't know if this is I didn't know. And is this touchy? You'll let me know. Timeout meaning what? A voluntary or forced timeout, Mike?
Involuntary sabbatical.
What happened? Can you talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Everyone's familiar with lawfare. I'll leave it largely at that.
So it's a 6 months, we'll call it a sanction, but 6 months you're not allowed to practice, and then you can come back to the practice.
Yeah, I refunding a woman out of the wrong bank account. It had nothing to do with taking money from clients. I was actually giving it back to them. But that was my cardinal issue. They
show me the man, and I'll show you the crime. Okay, it doesn't matter. It won't get into it further than that. But now, what state were you practicing in before, or go back to afterwards?
Licensed in state court wise, I only practice exclusively in federal court, but
okay.
Licensed in DC and Virginia. But I've had cases in 22 different states, so everywhere from Hawaii to Alaska, Florida to Massachusetts, Texas, everywhere in between, pretty much. So all over federally, and then my two partners with our firm in the for-profit side, Yoder, Durrett, Pearson, they practice all over the country as well.
Very cool. And what state are you in now, if I may ask? You're in
California.
You're in California. Have you had to evacuate?
I have not. I'm fortunately south of LA, so we're in good shape here. But it's terrible to see the devastation that is largely in part resultant of incompetence and poor management and frankly management of every aspect of what you're supposed to manage. But my heart's with those people in LA, regardless of political agenda or aisle or ideology. It's sad. It's just a blanket statement. It's just sad.
Where are you in California right now?
San Diego.
San Diego is 3 hours south of LA, 4 hours south. It's far.
It could be anywhere between 2 and 6,
depending on traffic.
But yeah.
Okay, very cool. And so you don't, you haven't seen, you're not firsthand seeing the fires or anything, but I know that you obviously have lots of people that you know up in the area.
Yeah, there's a lot of I mean, we actually represented the firefighters, a lot of LA firefighters a while ago. They're some of the nicest people I've ever met, and hope they're all safe. So I mean, we have a lot of friends in LA. We have a lot of connections in LA, and we've had personally friends that had to evacuate or flee their homes. So it's as devastating as what people if you're on the East Coast or wherever you may be are seeing. It really is as bad as they're showing.
Okay, now getting to so you start a 501c3, the purpose of which is what's the objective, and I want to get into the relationship with James O'Keefe as well. But so what's the 501c3 doing?
Yeah, so essentially what it came down to is the fact of when you go after defending rights or enforcing your constitutional protections that you have that are guaranteed to you in the United States. There's not a lot of money in that. There's not a lot of money when you're not suing over some sort of economic harm. You're suing to have your rights reinstated or rather to prevent the government from further violating the rights that you're guaranteed. That's not something that's necessarily a monetary gain or a lawsuit where you're seeking some sort of economic damages. The problem with that is that the litigation costs alone are exorbitant. And a lot of times what we saw was that people could have a perfect case that could change the landscape of an issue nationwide. Just like if people look at the, Obergefell v. Hodges, it took one case to legalize gay marriage on a federal level nationwide across the country. You look at one person with a set of facts can change the landscape for better or worse, but that person may not have the economic means to actually litigate that case. So what we decided to do was, if you're going to have large, nationwide impact issues of constitutional questions, we wanted to protect the rights of Americans across the board and actually enforce that by doing so through a nonprofit, because it is a public interest. We're trying to further the interests of the nation and society and protect those rights, but also educating them as well. So when you don't have the monetary ability to do that, that's why we went into the nonprofit space and opened Citizen AG to start doing that as well.
And so what cases are you involved in now? That I know that when you were on Jones, you were talking about, oh geez, it was COVID. You'll refresh my memory on it, but what cases are you involved in now that are newsworthy and noteworthy?
So right now we were involved. We just got off the election integrity fund. We ended up identifying and preventing 1.5 million voters that were ineligible voters that were still on the registration lists in Arizona and Pennsylvania from being able to be used for fraud. We forced the state of Arizona to turn over their entire voter databases, as well as we identified 277,000 voters in Pennsylvania that should have been removed from the rolls and were not, and just actually were able to get a written admission from the Pennsylvania Secretary of State admitting that they failed to comply with the National Voter Registration Act in terms of their list maintenance provisions. So we're not just dropping the case. We didn't do it for partisan reasons. We believe that everyone's fundamental right to vote applies both in regard to preventing vote dilution, as well as ensuring that people who are eligible to vote are able to cast their ballots as they so choose. So we're still involved in those two cases. And then we also found another case we filed in Wisconsin that was dealing with a lot of the source of voter fraud. This through nonprofits that claim to help with list maintenance accuracy, but they add tenfold the number of voters to the list that they remove, and they're actually less accurate than the states that don't, partake in this nonprofit's services, so to speak.
Okay, very interesting. And now, you're based in California now. You live there?
Yep.
You were following, because there's a lot of parallels to draw between what's going on in California, Lahaina. I don't know what the status is of North Carolina in terms of eminent domain, but you were intimately following what was going on in Lahaina at the time. You've been following up on that?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. We essentially went out and working with a local Hawaiian lawyer. We ended up there was a gentleman that was criminally charged for taking a photograph on public property. He was on side of a public roadway, and I mean, that's as blatant of a First Amendment violation as you get. And we initiated a lawsuit. It ended up resulting in his charges being completely dropped as soon as we initiated the litigation. And the whole gist of it was protecting the fundamental First Amendment rights of free speech and petitioning the government, freedom of expression. And the issue here was the fact that under Hawaiian law, the state law allowed the governor to unilaterally suspend, quote, any law that he deemed necessary to further the interests of mitigating the public health emergency or state of emergency, that's which is a codified dictatorship where you're eligible to unilaterally suspend any law that you so choose. And apparently that included the First Amendment, but under what's called the Supremacy Clause, that's, a bunch of, I obviously know that you're aware of the law and,
Yeah, but
very educated, but
for the purposes of the audience, Supremacy Clause, I don't want to screw it up, but summarize. I mean, okay, sorry. Explain what it is.
Essentially, the Supremacy Clause is saying that federal law trumps state law. So, if the teacher tells the kid that they can't do something, kid can't do it. If the principal tells the teachers that they can't do something, the principal wins. If the superintendent tells the principals they can't do something, superintendent wins. So it's a hierarchy of laws under the Supremacy Clause where the Constitution reigns supreme.
The Constitution is the law of the land, period, and no state can violate the Constitution
without their law being unconstitutional. They can't conflict with one another. So that's what the Supremacy Clause says. If there's a conflict where they butt between each other, federal law wins, or Constitution wins over federal law, or obviously the Constitution wins over state law too.
It's funny, in Canada, which is where I'm from, we have our Charter of Rights Constitution, and then you have a provision of the Charter of Rights that says that provinces can violate the Charter of Rights, certain charter rights, if they do so specifically in the law, but there are certain ones that they can't, but other ones that they can. So they can violate language laws, mobility rights, whatever. If the provision of law specifically says that they can do it, they have a time frame within which they can do it. So, but also our charter says every right in here is guaranteed, except in as much as can be compromised in a free and democratic society, which means that you can get locked in your house for 5.5 months under curfew for a virus.
Well, I might have to give way if you guys become the 51st state. It's going to be confusing for you as a lawyer.
It's not. It's not going to happen. I've been doing the rounds this week to explaining what I think is going on with that. But so you got the charges dropped in that case. Did you? Let me ask a stupid question. Did you get to go to Hawaii?
Oh yeah, we went out to Hawaii for that, and that was probably gonna be my last time in Hawaii. So,
do I dare ask why?
I mean, more you sue the government, and then you get a bar complaint. But interestingly enough, the complaining party was the government itself. So,
I know how it goes, by the way. And I know how it goes when they start to audit the small guys. Because we when I was a practicing lawyer, that we would magically get audited twice in 7 years, where some big firms, they either don't get audited that often, but they certainly have less of a difficulty in addressing an audit because it's a less drain on their resources. But when they literally, tally if interest accrues in a trust account and it doesn't balance to the penny, these become issues, and they exist as an administrative body to make issues of the procedure itself. But anybody who's ever practiced knows the retribution that comes along with being politically unpopular. Anyway, Hawaii's nice, but we got good nice mountains up in the mainland anyhow. But did you go visit the disaster site in Lahaina?
Yeah, we did. It was shocking. I mean, that was one of the first things that James and I worked on together. James O'Keefe and I went out there, just reporting on what was going on. We obviously knew that there was a lot of malfeasance going on. There were contradictory statements from state officials, from National Guard, from police. Nobody understood what was going on, and I saw it from the outset. It was exactly what it ultimately ended up being, which was a land grab. And you see in the United States, there's something called the takings clause, which, as a preliminary matter, it shocks me that, most people don't realize you technically never really own anything, no matter what. You could have the deed to the soil beneath your feet, or the house, or the land, or you could have, but if you don't pay taxes on it, what do? They take it. If you pay taxes on it, what are you doing? You're renting it. So theoretically, if you look at it in that concept, you never actually technically own anything. And even if you do comply with that, the government can still take privately owned land. If you pay for it, you own it, it's beneath your feet, you pay your taxes, you do everything the way you're supposed to. If the government deems that they're going to be using that land for the public benefit, and they provide what's called just compensation. Now, that term is undefined. What is deemed to be just is another way of saying fair market value. Well,
or municipal evaluation, which is always well below fair market value.
Or when you have to agree upon it, such as when you get an example where, let's say, for example, you work 8 months out of the year, and then in Hawaii, they wait until the next, fiscal year, and then they threaten you with not paying your taxes. But then if let's say we'll give you $700, if you either owe us tax money, but you can't pay it because you lost everything in a fire and you didn't work the last 4 months of the year, and you're just trying to get your life back together. So if you don't pay your taxes, then they, we'll drop any criminal charge if you agree to, give us your land in exchange. And if you agree to that, then obviously a contract in the United States that could serve as the basis of what's considered just compensation. And it's not the first time this has happened. They've done it previously in Hawaii. They did it to build a golf course. And then you also see that happening. And my fear is that that's what potentially could be happening in LA. I hope not. But, these smart cities, that's something that they talk about a lot, where they want to, take the land and turn it into government ran housing complexes or whatever that may be. And, I'm not going to speculate and opine as to why the fires happened in LA. I don't have any evidence on it, so I'm not going to, theorize on it, but it is something that has happened. It's a real danger and it's a real threat. And, sadly, it's happened recently.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look to see what the number of now homeless are going to be as a result of these fires. Grok is saying posts on X suggest varying numbers. Thousands are homeless due to the fires, with an estimate from specific posts mentioning figures like 30,000 becoming homeless and another exaggerating to 1 million. But it is wild, because there's going to be nothing but the lots, the plot of land left after this, whether or not it's going to be deemed a disaster that's going to require federal relief. When it came to Lahaina, East Palestine, North Carolina, and now LA, a lot of people talk about eminent domain and the government declaring it something of a national or national disaster, that the feds have to come in and appropriate the land to clean it. I very summarily looked into it, but do you have any knowledge on the procedure, or whether or not that's a feasible or reasonable possibility?
So to answer the latter question, yes, I know and believe that it is a reasonable possibility of actually happening. In terms of the procedural aspect as to how you actually go through the logistical process behind it, that I'm not aware of. That I'm not a California attorney, so I couldn't. I don't want to opine on some sort of laws to in a state I'm not licensed. But I mean, each state's eminent domain proceedings are different. But yeah, I mean, it is a very real possibility, and a lot of it's done under the guise of we're going to take the land under control to help it and rebuild. But sure, that sounds great, but what happens after it's rebuilt? Does it go back to the landowner, or and if you're going to cut a budget to the point where you don't even have water and fire hydrants flowing, I find it hard to believe that you're going to invest in ameliorating burnt property and then just hand it back over to the rightful owners. It sounds like it should be happening, but it also sounds too good to be true. And I hate to be pessimistic about it, but I just don't trust anything until it actually happens.
What has ended up happening in Lahaina? We haven't heard much talk about it. Nothing's been rebuilt. Has the land been claimed or reclaimed by the government?
Some of it. They've also included zoning ordinances in a lot of places where, for example, people that didn't want to agree to certain provisions or taking the compensation that was offered to them, they've instituted zoning ordinances where you have to have, 17 feet between each house or something of that sort, where it's an impossible compliance mechanism where you can't be in compliance with the new zoning codes. And it's a squeeze. I mean, Lahaina has some of the most valuable real estate in the entire world. And it was largely a lower income demographic that lived there. It's historic. It's from the Kingdom of Hawaii prior to it becoming a state. And so, the people there are incredible. But it's unfortunately part of what happens when the government wants something, the government takes it.
It's amazing. Okay, and now, so James O'Keefe partnership, what are you guys working on together now?
So, I mean, he released that movie, The Line in the Sand. I don't know if you saw that, dealing with the immigration. So we're representing, with the whistleblowers in that film, some of the Zach Apotheker. We're also working with a female whistleblower, Kelsey Goodman, who was in North Carolina. We also have someone from government services that had contracts showing the profitable entity that exists surrounding the trafficking of children and illegal aliens. And we also have a few other whistleblowers that we're working with. And essentially the whole point of what we're trying to do is the people know that corruption is real. People that work in the government know that it exists, but so many of them are too afraid to come forward. And it's justified because look what happens when you speak out, when you do the right thing. It's a top-down, fear-driven leadership style within our government, especially the federal government, where if you speak out, they crush you. They retaliate against you, and people shouldn't be afraid to speak the truth. So James and I decided, instead of just exposing their stories, we need to actually do something about it. They need to be defended, not only in terms of them, facing retaliation or termination or whatever it may be, but also it needs to go further where we actually enforce the laws and actually make sure that those who violate them are held accountable. Because the whistleblower should not be investigated for blowing the whistle. The claims that the whistleblowers bring forward are what should be the focus of any sort of investigation thereafter. And that just doesn't happen.
I watched the documentary. I actually had Zach on as well, at least once. The human trafficking element of this. Were you in the documentary, like physically? Because I don't.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Okay,
James is insane. I watched that and I was like, you are a brave man. I'll leave it at that. I was just
brave is what non-family members would say. Stupid is probably what his family members would say. What are you doing? Craziness. Him being on that train, going through the train that's part of the caravan on a train with migrants, and then having to deal with corrupt Mexican police. I would obviously never in a million years. He's nuts. But the human trafficking side of that, where we are now hearing the numbers of missing children. We're seeing the stories are now coming out a little bit more of unaccompanied kids hitting the border, being dumped off by human traffickers with nothing but a telephone number and an address. And then there's the element of the corruption once they get into the American side. It's a story not really told all that often. I mean, can you go into the details as to what you guys know, what you've been able to uncover thus far?
I mean, mostly of what we've seen has been in, it was a lot of it was included in the movie, but we also just have seen there are contracts where that facilitate the economic industry of trafficking, and we know that the border being wide open is a profitable business. I mean, that's something that's made readily apparent within the movie, and then you also see on top of that the impact that it had on voting. I mean, so is everything that's done is there's not just necessarily one purpose for a lot of it. There's more, they're multifaceted. They have different reasons for why they do what they do, but the influx of the crime, the influx of the just across the border, no pun intended, is just, it's just widespread. And the trafficking, you seeing them come into the country, they're having, contingencies placed on if you have to register to vote to get your food stamps and you get your debit cards and get your free phones and so on and so forth. We saw this, throughout the administration, but it just ramped up towards I'd say the last 2 years it picked up, more significantly, but it's an influx and they veil it under the guise of refugees. But we have asylum processes, we have refugee processes, and they try to blur the lines by conflating illegal immigration with immigration and saying that anyone who opposes illegal immigration is somehow, racist or xenophobic or whatever it may be, or they have issues with where you're from. And that's not the case. It's just there are proper mechanisms that I would agree do need to be revamped in certain ways for how to immigrate here legally, and it needs to be done more efficiently. But there is a legal way to do it and there's an illegal way to do it. And that's really what it comes down to. And the flux across the border, the trafficking, the dangers, the fentanyl that's overpouring the lines, and then the children that are being trafficked is a massive, massive problem. And at the end of the day, I don't think that protecting children should be, frankly, I am still optimistic that it's not a partisan issue.
It is. Well, the thing is, they're not unaware of it. I go down very dirty, dark rabbit holes. So, I mean, I'm looking at the stats now. According to data from 2020, there were 365,000 missing person records filed for juveniles between 0 and 17. Okay, the numbers. I'm trying to think. I want to get more recent. I don't know what the number is now. Where it's tens of thousands that go missing yearly once they cross the border or that are unaccounted for. And I say it's not a problem that they're unaware of it. It's not a problem they can't solve. I have a bad feeling that it's a problem of which they are complicit. They're a party for, the dirtiest and darkest of potential reasons. So yeah, it shouldn't be a partisan issue, but I think the system itself is complicit in what's going on for whatever the reason, financial or other.
A lot of it, they don't even know why they're doing it. A lot of people just do what they're told, and they don't particularly question. I mean, we've seen critical thinking just hit an all-time abysmal low. It's essentially just, do as I say, don't ask questions, and people just fall in line with that. And we've lost the ability to critically think about the questions, just our simple basic questions like, why are we doing what we're doing? Is this something that's a good thing? Is this something that's moral? Is this something that's furthering the people of this country? People don't ask those questions anymore. They just do what they're told, and they just, it's like just following orders.
Now that you've gotten into this stuff, which involves going after the government, we're going to get to. I'll get your opinion on what happened to Trump also, and we'll play a video here. But have you noticed any other interesting? Like, have you been targeted in any other ways since you've started needling the beast?
Oh, I mean, our entire staff has had to get new phones, had to get new computers. We've had our office broken into. We've had our security systems de-alarmed. We've had our Wi-Fi taken down. We've had people knock on our doors multiple times. I mean, we've had to have personal security. So we've had the gamut of threats. We've had, standard, you poke the bear, you're doing the right thing, trying to fight for what's the truth, and it comes at a price. But I always say I'll keep fighting till God calls me home or Hillary Clinton finds me.
Hillary. Okay, don't. What's the word? Not tempt that beast, but there's whatever. Tempt that fate. All right, you following what happened to Trump today? Let me see if I can bring this up. I have to bring up Robert Govea's stream, because apparently people said that I wanted to get the audio of Trump calling in, and this might be the timestamp. Let me just see.
Court and its family,
Good.
Individual prosecutors.
Oh, there was audio. There was audio for the hearing. Yeah, whatever. I went through the Twitter feed, but
the witnesses, the grand jury,
okay, so
the trial jury, and the justice system as well.
Forget it. Okay, I wanted to hear Trump's address the court, but I'll get that afterwards. You saw what happened this morning. But first of all, what year were you sworn in?
2018.
Okay, that's fair enough. Now, you've been following the case. You saw the unconditional discharge. I sort of went through it. What do you if you have thoughts on the process, the conviction, and the result? Now, what happens after this? What do you think of it?
It's a nothing burger, and a state court judge just wanting to put a feather in his cap for being the one that was responsible for the first felony conviction of a president. That's my take on it.
Unconditional discharge, from what Grok says, and it's my understanding from beforehand as well, in any event, it's no punishment. That was it. Now you go, you're a convicted felon, but there is zero punishment beyond what you've already gone through, which was not a formal punishment, just the process. Just
a mark on your record that says you're a felon. It's a talking point, and you get to put your name in the book of history for, we'll let history decide whether it was a good reason or bad reason. I think most will, can already see the answer to that question, but notoriety, and that's really what it comes down to, I think.
If it's, I don't know how often they do this. How often do felony convictions result in an unconditional discharge? And what types of felonies typically do you get convicted of that you'd end up getting an unconditional discharge?
You are asking a heart surgeon questions. I'll go to a foot doctor. I couldn't get you out of a speeding ticket. I don't know a single thing about criminal law. I know the political gamesmanship, and I know the political weaponry of the courts, and I know the civil angle of suing. But the likelihood of me suing to get a criminal charge taken off the books is probably higher than me being able to defend you to beat the charge on it. So I'll
go get the stats from Grok afterwards. And now, by the way, so because what's the word? Not tweaked my attention. Tweaked. Caught my attention. Peaked. When you were on with Alex Jones and we were talking about COVID, and you had this document which I hadn't yet fully been apprised of. We're going to shift the conversation just a little bit. What were you talking? What was the document that you had in COVID, basically on Alex Jones, detailing the groundwork of the setup for what was COVID, or what was that document that you had?
So it was an NIH publication that sort of detailed the developing. It was essentially a coronavirus's layout. It was published February 12th, 2016. I found it back in 2021 that kind of highlighted a lot of details about how you could monetize and the value and the high dollar investment potential of a global vaccination platform that would effectively lay the basis of like something called like One World Health, which is, it would be a one world government, new world order type thing where it's just one government. And it was published by the NIH. I mean, it's from a .gov website. It's not something that was just pulled out of thin air. It was from the government itself. And it got so hyper specific into the virus itself, talking about using a bat virus as a precursor. They predicted that, in case there was ever a leak, an accidental leak from a laboratory in China. I mean, they talk about things like that, and the media driving the hype, where the thing that caught my attention the most in this document was when they used the word unfortunately. And they were talking about the fact that the Ebola virus had disappeared. They described that as, quote, unfortunate. The disappearance of the threat was unfortunate. Now, I don't know what kind of sick person describes the fact that a fatal epidemic at the time, it wasn't necessarily a pandemic, but it was an epidemic, that Ebola and H1N1, they also tried it, but that never even got off the ground. But they really tried to with Ebola. who in their right mind describes the disappearance of that threat as an unfortunate
very much
thing?
disagree with that. And it's incredible, actually. Now,
That's where I realized that there was a massive issue with it. And I kept looking, and they talk about the key driver will be the media, because they need to sustain the hype. Because if the long-term investment product is going to actually manifest, they need to keep
Ever wonder how
a sense of
constitutional
fear.
carry?
And that's what the issue was. They need to keep the fear going, because people don't have interest in something until there's a real threat on in the country, and that's what they were doing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, it is. Yeah, I mean, the segue into, or at least thinking about what the next step is, and you were on with Alex talking about what is the next plan. Are they anticipating for the future? They had that. What was the thing that they set up in 2019? There was a word for the not the rehearsal, but the playing out the pandemic. I forget what the chat will get it.
Like a scenario or they did it. I mean, they did the same thing with, I forget what it was called. I think it was called like Operation Phoenix or something with the Tampa hurricane.
Yeah. Were they talking about what would happen after Tampa is totally wiped out? Event 201 is what it was here. And by the way, I don't have a hard time focusing. I actually am trying to not multitask, but make sure I know what's going on in the chat. Event 201 was what they had. The question is going to be now coming up for the inauguration going forward. We've seen the conviction. Do you have any interesting predictions as to what you think might happen between now and inauguration and inauguration and after?
I think there'll be a lot of temper tantrums and people throwing their fists in the air, and hopefully we'll see some people calling out. We saw Jamie Raskin, the representative from Maryland, talking about it's our job to prevent this from happening, and yada. I mean, at the end of the day, look, like the nation spoke. They elected a president. They chose which party they wanted to have control of the Senate, and they chose which party they wanted to have control of the House. And when you're in government, it's your job to, like, people often forget politicians work for us. Like, we're their employer, and we choose them. So to not align with what the nation overwhelmingly spoke out and chose is a problem. And I think that they hopefully will understand that, and they'll do the right thing and just respect that, and that will play nice within our own party. But we'll see what happens. I'm hoping that there's nothing eventful that happens over the next 10 days. And I'm hoping that there's a lot of eventful things for the better that start, on the 11th day and thereafter.
DC, I haven't verified this, but apparently gave 50,000 protesters permits for January 20th. Well, hopefully they'll have more cops this time around. Like, they won't be understaffed because of COVID.
Or in the Capitol.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Are you going to go up to LA and have a firsthand look at what's going on, or is that not a good idea?
I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't necessarily know if it's something that I'm going to do. I know that there, if people need help, I'm more than happy to help in any way that I can. And if that calls me up there, then I by all means will go. But I don't have any plans on that right now.
Amazing, Mike. So where can people find you, and how can people support what you're doing?
Yeah, you can find me social. It's at Yoder _ESQ, YODER _ESQ. That's both on X and Instagram. And then Citizen AG is at _Citizen AG on both. And you can go to our website, citizenag.org. We operate 100% off tax deductible donations. That's the only way we're able to do the work that we do as a nonprofit. So, big or small, whatever it may be, you can join the fight. If you have a tip for, if you are someone that's in the federal government and wants to blow the whistle anonymously and know that you'll be safe in raising that, please feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to James and his nonprofit, the Citizen Journalism Foundation. But get involved, speak out. It's the best time we've ever had to make a change for the better. And, we don't always know if there's going to be others in the future. So take advantage of what we have right now and, get involved somehow.
Right now, not to end on a bad note, or at least a dark note. This is from Patriot. We are under siege. I know nothing of this. They're preparing for a mass casualty event per O'Keefe investigation. Has there been an O'Keefe investigation talking about nefarious plots for inauguration?
It wasn't necessarily a nefarious plot, but he did get a memo from a whistleblower inside the Veterans Affairs where they're calling for a lot of emergency paramedics and medical personnel to be staffed. And he asked he inquired into whether that's something that's normal. Is it standard course for prior inaugurations? Is this something that they do routinely? And no one could really give the answer. They kind of passed it around like a hot potato. And he even got a hold of the individual that drafted the memo from the VA. who directed him to talk to the communications department, who then didn't have an answer there either, really. So it is a bit concerning, that nobody has answers, but calling for a significant number of emergency medical professionals to be at the event. And it could just be a false flag type thing where they're just trying to do that to deter people from showing up. But regardless, it's something that's noteworthy, and we can't ever be, anything shy of as vigilant as possible. So hopefully it goes as smooth as possible and it's just a false alarm. But, again, great work by James and getting information out to the public. That's what a journalist should do. And he's one of the best.
Yeah, sickening astroturfing, or what's the word? Not telegraphing, but programming, conditional programming, like they did with those Netflix series. Mike, if you could, after we're done or after you go, send me the links. I'll put them in the pinned comment so that people can access them easily. Thank you very much. I'm going to stay live for like 5 more minutes just to cover some questions that I saw over on Locals. But Mike, anything? Okay, we've covered a lot. Anything you would want to have said that I didn't think to ask or give you the opportunity?
No, I think we've covered it all. We got 10 more days, and we're on the right course.
And I'm glad we met because, like, now, look. First of all, I'm gonna pick your brain privately from time to time because it's I'm still a Canadian schnook at the end of the day, learning all this stuff. But you're fighting the good fight. You're partnered with the good partner, and so Godspeed and God bless everything you're doing. Send me the links after, and I'll put them in the pinned comment when this is over. People will be able to get them.
Thanks, Viva.
My pleasure. Talk to you soon. Okay, that's amazing. Now, what I wanted to do, there were a couple of, I'm going to get ready to leave because I got to get prepped and get my makeup on for Megyn Kelly. And then I'm going to pop on with Eric Hunley thereafter. I'm going to go to Locals. We're going to have I'm going to get to some of the comments here. Michigan Winter Days, or MI Winter Days, says DEI destroys everything it touches. The sad irony of a city burning that is full of DEI programs. Like it's the DEI and the DIE now I say humorous or observation spells itself right now, pun intended. Lily America 1 says, yes, the theory is to take the land and build a smart city, but you should watch the video he posted on his Instagram about who owns the majority of water rights in California. It's a husband and a wife. I saw that video. I did I not share that with Locals? It's a 10-minute video talking about the Resnicks are a couple who allegedly own the rights to a ton of the fresh water in California that they want to monopolize and control for their personal farming and business needs because they own wonderful palm, pistachios, and all this other stuff. There's no question about that. And that is it. People, let me get to some of the chats over on Rumble. See what's going on there. Megyn Kelly is still a smoke show. Trump won. I don't know what you mean by smoke show. Did I miss any tipped questions here? 311, I got that one. DEI literally blames the person for bringing a fire. Got that one. You don't see microwaves? Okay, we got that one. Jean-Claude. Oh, yeah, that's what I wanted to do, is get the link for Jean-Claude Beyond Mystic. But take this one out because I see something over on Free Speech Rumble coming from our man at Biltong, King of Biltong. Start your health journey this year with some tasty high-protein meat snacks. Biltong is packed with B12, iron, zinc, creatine, and more. Get some at www.biltong.com. BiltongUSA.com. Viva, Pro Viva for 10% off. Trump needs to have the inauguration indoors. Too easy to... I don't want to put bad juju in the universe. I think he should just do the inauguration from Mar-a-Lago. Viva, rants. Did I miss any rants? Scrolling up. Oh, there's one rant up here that I missed. Okay, hold on. Get that out of here. Disappear this. We got Ginger Ninja. I can't bring it up. Ginger Ninja, the man who made this chessboard behind me. Amy Coney Barrett is a disgrace, a horrible, corrupted, and immoral human. I hope Trump has learned his lesson on judicial nominees. We had a fight. Barnes is vindicated. I didn't read the rationale. I don't even know if there is a rationale to, what her rationale was for not staying the sentencing. But Barnes has been vindicated. Time and time again. Of course, every time she makes a good decision, we can say she did the right thing. And every time she makes a bad decision, Barnes is vindicated. We know how that works. But yeah, that's it. Let me see. I'm going to get some more questions over here in the Locals community. Yoder is very smart. Trump can easily travel to Canada once it becomes a state. Okay, that's from Jacob 62. We have ways of making you say the letter O, says Howard the Duck. Okay, I don't get that. No, Biden can't pardon for a state crime. No, Jake. That's the question. Well, now that we know that, yes, I keep forgetting that. But there were federal underlying predicate acts that would make for the object of a pardon. Has she made a good decision yet, says Bill Brown? I have to think. What happens with Amy this time? What happened with Amy? Amy was the 5-4 on refusing to stay the sentencing. SCOTUS declines sentencing. I'll just do this quick. Supreme Court declines to hear it. I'm going to pick from MSM Rubbish so we can see what the enemy has to say. The decision means the sentencing hearing is scheduled for Friday. It goes through. Okay, fine. Supreme Court rejected presidential-elect request to block the criminal proceedings in his hush money case in New York, meaning the sentencing scheduled can go. Here's the decision, 5-4. With 4 conservatives dissenting, it means conservative majority court changed. The 5-4 with 4 conservatives dissenting meant the conservative majority court changed course after having previously handed Trump the big win last year. Trump is set to return to the presidency. How long is this decision? Oh, it's just declining. Okay, so hold on. I can go like this now. I think we can get through this decision, people, before I have to end the stream today. Here we go. Trump, the application for stay presented to Justice Sotomayor and by her referred to the court is denied for inter alia the following reasons. First, the alleged evidentiary violations at President-elect Trump's state court trial can be addressed in the ordinary course on appeal. Second, the burden that sentencing will impose on the president-elect's responsibilities is relatively insubstantial in light of the trial court's stated intent to impose a sentence of, quote, unconditional discharge, end quote, after a brief virtual hearing. Justice Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh would have granted. So that means that Amy was the deciding one. And it's very funny, eh? This came out yesterday, so we didn't know that the judge was actually going to follow through on his stated intent of unconditional discharge. One thing we've learned is, stating to intend to potentially do something later doesn't mean that you're bound to do it later. So they were flipping a coin or taking a gamble. That was a risk they were willing to take. So, so that's it. Peeps, locals, I'll get something. We'll do something live this afternoon. I got to go eat breakfast and then get ready for Megyn Kelly and then get ready for Eric Hunley. So I got to go clear my mind and also clear one of the dogs, if you know what I'm saying. So that means pee. Take the dogs out for a walk. Pudge. Where is she? Oh, she's sitting right there. Do we want to see Pudge? Oh, yeah. Proof of life of Pudge. Proof of life of Pudge. Here she is. Hello, Pudge. Are you alive? I woke you up. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're so cute. This is Pudge, paralyzed puggle with her little paralyzed legs here. And I'm going to go take her for a walk and at least carry her and squeeze her out. So, everybody, Megyn Kelly in a half an hour. Eric Hunley in an hour. And I'll be posting a video that I shot in the car within the next few minutes detailing my top 10 myths confirmed about the LA fire. Good job, Viva & Company. Thank you for your service to all us Canadians from a grateful Saskatchewanian. Saskatchewan, t'as volé ma femme. There's a song, but Les Trois Accords is the name of the song. Look this up. Les Trois Accords. The Les, L-E-S-T-R-O-I-S, A-C-C-O-R-D-S. They have a song called Saskatchewan. And once you hear it, you will never unhear it. Saskatchewan. Thank you for being here. I will see you all sooner than later on the interwebs, and I'm going to go get ready. So that is it. End transmission. Peace out, Godspeed, and God bless.